A new hire sits in her second planning meeting. 3 weeks in, still has the instincts nobody trained out of her yet. The team is reviewing the weekly numbers, green across the board. Someone starts the next agenda item. She raises her hand. Sorry, quick question. Why do we track response time instead of resolution rate? Doesn't a fast reply that doesn't fix anything just look good on this chart? Silence. Not hostile, just nobody has an answer ready. Someone says, that's just the metric we've always used. Someone else moves the meeting along and the agenda continues. Nobody in that room disagrees with her. You can see it on their faces, and nobody says so out loud. 6 months later, she stopped asking. Not because she got an answer, because she learned what everyone else already knew. The metric isn't up for discussion. It's infrastructure now. Welcome back to Iconoclast Insights. I'm Andre Daus. Last time we talked about wrong turns. The quiet kind, a decision that felt reasonable, kept feeling reasonable and slowly took you somewhere you never meant to go. That episode was about individuals, about the moment you stop asking whether the decision still makes sense. Today, we are going one level up, because organizations don't just take wrong turns. They do something worse. They institutionalize them. An individual's wrong turn is fragile. It lives in one person's head and one honest conversation can expose it. An organization's wrong turn gets a dashboard, a process, a team, and a budget line. It stops being a decision anyone remembers making and starts being how we do things here. And once that happens, the wrong turn isn't just uncorrected. It is protected. Let me walk through how this actually builds, because it's rarely one dramatic moment. It's usually 3 quiet mechanisms stacking on top of each other. The first is optimizing the wrong metric. Somebody at some point picked a number to track. Reasonable choice given what they knew at the time. Maybe it was response time, maybe it was ticket volume, maybe it was monthly sign-ups instead of retained customers. The metric wasn't wrong when it was chosen. It was a proxy for something that mattered. But metrics have a strange property. Once you start optimizing for one, people get very good at moving it, even when moving it stops correlating with the thing it was supposed to represent. Response time goes down because people rush. Sign-ups go up because sales stops qualifying leads. The number improves. The underlying reality doesn't. And nobody revisits whether the metric still means what it used to mean, because revisiting a metric feels like admitting the whole reporting structure is wrong. The second is replacing thinking with process. Process exists for a good reason. It's how you scale judgment beyond one person's attention. But process has a shelf life. It was built for a set of conditions, and conditions change. The market changes, the team changes, the customer changes. What doesn't change if nobody's watching is the process. It just keeps running. And at some point, following the process stops being a way to execute good judgment and starts being a substitute for it. People stop asking, does this make sense? And start asking, did I follow the steps? Those are very different questions, and only one of them catches a wrong turn. The third is the one that does the most damage. Bad news gets softened on the way up. In most organizations, nobody sets out to hide problems. It happens gradually, through incentives nobody designed on purpose. The person closest to a problem reports it accurately. The manager, who's accountable for the team's numbers, frames it slightly more favorable before passing it up. Their manager does the same. By the time it reaches whoever could actually authorize a course correction, the problem has been rounded down at every level, and what looks like a minor issue is actually a structural one. Nobody lied. Everybody just protected their own layer. And the wrong turn keeps driving, because the people who could see it clearly aren't the people with the authority to turn the wheel. And the people with the authority are working from a version of the map that's already been edited for comfort. Here's what makes this genuinely difficult, not just a failure of courage. The people inside the system are optimizing correctly for the system they are actually in. If you're rewarded for hitting the metric is the rational move, even if you privately suspect it's the wrong metric. If your performance review is built around following the process, deviating from the process is a career risk, even when your judgment says the process no longer fits. Nobody inside is stupid, and nobody's necessarily acting in bad faith. They're responding correctly to the incentives in front of them. The wrong turn isn't a people problem. It's a systems problem, wearing people's decisions as its interface. That's exactly why it's so durable. You can't fix it by finding the one person who's wrong, because the system will simply produce the next person who optimizes the same way. The metric is still there. The process is still there. The reporting structure still softens bad news on the way up. Replace the person, keep the system, and you'll get the same wrong turn with a different name attached to it. So what breaks the pattern? Usually not more scrutiny on the front line. They are already telling you the truth in a rounded down way. It's someone senior enough to have authority and secure enough not to need the metric to keep going up this quarter. Asking a very specific kind of question out loud. Not, are we hitting the number? But, if we were designing this from scratch today, knowing what we know now, would we build it this way? That question is uncomfortable on purpose. It bypasses the process and the metric entirely and goes straight at the assumption underneath them. Most people inside a system have asked themselves a version of that question privately. Very few have asked it out loud, because out loud it sounds like an accusation instead of a diagnostic. It isn't one. The wrong turn that's been institutionalized isn't anyone's fault in particular. It's what happens when reasonable individual decisions accumulate without anyone owning the whole picture. Naming that clearly, without needing a villain, is usually the first moment a stuck organization actually has a chance to turn the wheel. So think back to that meeting room. Somewhere in your organization, right now, someone relatively new is sitting in a meeting like that one, noticing something the rest of the room stopped seeing a long time ago. Maybe they will ask. Maybe they already did, once, and got the same silence. The question isn't whether that person exists. They almost always do. The question is what happens the next time they raise their hand. I'm Andre Daus. This has been Iconoclast Insights, and if you find this useful, hope to see you next time.